Today's topic, office administration. We are going to complete paper 1, 2025. It comprises of 60 multiple choice questions, to which you have 1 hour and 15 minutes to attempt. Which of the following services is a function performed by the general office? Which of the following services is a function performed by the general office? So the general office, when you're talking about a general office, the number one service, no matter what the office is, if it's a marketing office, if it's a customer service office, all of them have one thing in common, that is producing information. Which of the following factors is not a consideration when choosing an ergonomic design that meets the needs of the employee? Remember, ergonomics has to do with the science of having the workers, the employees, being comfortable when they are on the job. That entails the lighting, the furniture, the temperature. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Right? So which of the following factors is not a major consideration? That will be personal space. That is not a consideration when we're looking at ergonomics, right? We actually do ergonomics to prevent stress and injury and to increase performance standard. That is the main reason why we do ergonomics in the workplace. In which of the following situations would the relationship between employees be described as vertical? Now, this is a repeated question. The answer is A. One is senior to the other. Remember, vertical in an organizational chart is top down. That's vertical. Horizontal is left to right. So if it's vertical, let's look at a school. They have the principal on top and then the vice principal. So if you're looking at that structure, one is always senior to the other. So the answer is A. Number 4, which of the following components of computer hardware is an output device? An output device. What can come out of the computer? What can come out? Like a printer. Printer is an output device, right? What can come out of the computer? Monitor, right? Monitor. We use the mouse and the keyboard to put information in the computer, like if you're typing something, right? So monitor projects something out of the computer. So the answer is C. Number 4, C. Number 5, repeated question, right? Number 2 is not a repeated question. Number 2 is a new question. Number 3 is a repeated question. Number 4 is a repeated question. Let's go to number 5, which is also a repeated question. Matchbox Limited is structured so that each department has control over its own mail, typing, photocopying, and filing. This method is described as decentralized. Decentralization is when they have control of their own items. Centralization is when they have to share it. Yeah? Which of the following is least likely to be considered when management is deciding on suitable office layouts? This is a new question. Which of the following is least likely to be considered? We have to consider the space. We have to consider the number of employees we're working with. We must consider the resources, the budgets. Personal preferences of employees, we don't have to consider that. That is D. 6 is D. Repeated question for number 7. The main disadvantage of oral communication is that there is no record. There's no record. Number 8. Your immediate supervisor has asked you to retrieve information and bring it to his office promptly. You have all that is required, but another senior executive is now with him. What is the best course of action for you to take? This is a new question. Best course of action. Let's see. Wait until he is free and take it to him. Now remember, read the question carefully. He requested something and asked his immediate supervisor, your immediate supervisor has asked you to retrieve information. So if I'm your supervisor, I ask you to retrieve some information for me, and I'm telling you to bring it to my office promptly, urgently. Right? So if I need it, I cannot wait until you're free. So this is out. Slip quietly into his office and try to attract his attention. No, you can't slip quietly. Obtain permission on his extension to take in the information. Remember, he gave you permission to bring the document in his office. He gave you permission. So no need to slip, no need to ask permission. All you have to do, common courtesy, knock on his door and ask him if he would like to have it. That is the best answer. Question says, what is the best course of action? D is the best course of action. All right? Let's go to number 9. A confidential letter addressed to an employer arrived in a torn envelope. The mail clerk should, what should the mail clerk do? Keyword here is confidential. It arrived in a torn envelope. Keyword is confidential. So if it's confidential, only the person who the letter is addressed to, their eyes should view the content in the letter, no one else, because it's confidential, it's private. Return the envelope to the mail department. No. Refuse to accept the envelope from the mail. No. Attach a note to the envelope and deliver it by hand. Here we could consider C. Put the letter in a new envelope. Aha. Let me tell you why the answer is not D. Put the letter in a new envelope. If I take out the letter from the torn envelope, and there's a possibility I can open the letter and view the content. Remember, the keyword is confidential. I cannot do that. I will be invaded on someone's privacy. So the best answer here will be C. Attach a note to the envelope stating this is how the envelope was received and delivered by hand immediately to the employer. All right? 10. Repeated question. Which of the following sources of information would you consult if you wanted to obtain the entire speech which was delivered to Parliament by the Minister of Housing on the 7th of January 2009? This is a new question. We would go into the Hansard. B. 11. Which of the following would be considered a barrier to communication? Remember, it's a barrier, it's like an obstacle. Anything getting into the way from the message reaching the recipient. Semantics. That is a barrier, you know. Yes, that is a barrier. Numeracy skills, no timely feedback. Physical presence. Now, the best answer here would be semantics. Yeah, you know, we have words that spell the same, it may sound the same, but it have different meaning. Yeah, what about if you use a word in a sentence and it projects a different meaning to what you're trying to say? Yeah, so in this case, the keyword is barrier. And the best answer here will be A, semantics. 12. Number 12 is a repeated question. Mrs. Jones was selected for the position of receptionist at an engineering firm. On accepting the job, she was given a document outlining the work she was expected to perform. This document is called a job description. Job description is a document outlining your duties, your roles, and responsibilities on that particular desk. Yeah, so the answer is C. Let's go to 13. Filing through the use of microfilming is valuable for the shortage of storage of official records which are frequently in use. No. Now the keyword here is microfilming. When we're using the microfilm, it is for inactive files, like where you want to archive something Archiving means you're putting away inactive files that nobody seems to be using. You cannot throw it away, but you must keep these files. So the best answer here is C, information which must be kept for many years. Definitely you can use the microfilm. Yeah, C. So information which must be kept for many years, that information will be on inactive files. An active file is a file you use often. Inactive is a file you do not use frequently. 14. This is a repeated question. Which of the following guidelines should be followed by the interviewee during a job interview? Remain pleasant and alert, yes. Be confident when answering questions, yes. Maintain minimal eye contact with the interviewer. No. This is the part where CXC uses this question to trick persons. It's supposed to be maximum eye contact, not minimal. Yeah? You always have to keep your eye on the interviewer. Minimum meaning, you can watch the interviewer and then watch the wall or watch the wall clock. But it's maximum. If they had the word maximum here, the answer would have been D. But because they use the word minimal, this is wrong. So the answer could only be 1 and 2, so that is B. Remember that. Number 15. Which of the following best gives an employee information on internal employment opportunities which may become available in a newly formed department of the organization? Not magazine, not newspaper. Company's newsletter. Company's newsletter. Fine. 16. This is a repeated question. The correct indexing title of a file for Peter Kenneth Jandu, AASC, LLB, he has a law degree, is, when we are filing, remember the rule, surname first, and first name, everything else comes after. So surname first, which one has Jandu first? So the answer is between B and D. Surname first, then first name. So my answer should have Jandu. Peter, still B and D is in the race. Everything else comes after. So it's supposed to be Jandu, comma, Peter, then Kenneth, not K. They give us his whole name here, Kenneth. So which one has Jandu, comma, Peter, Kenneth? That's B, so the answer is B. 17. This is a repeated question. Which of the following is used to indicate that a file has been removed from a filing cabinet? That will be an out card. If I have a filing cabinet and someone from another section comes to take a file, I have to get the out card, and the information on the out card will be who took the file, the date they took the file, the person who took the file, which department they work in, and how long they are expected to have the file. That is the information on the out card. Yeah, so the answer is A. 18. Which of the following systems would a receptionist use to record information about visitors to a firm? This is a repeated question. That will be the reception register. Anybody coming to visit, you allow them to sign the time they came, who they came to see, and when they finish to the person and they're leaving the building, they have to come and sign out. Right? That is the reception register book. Right? So grab your calculators for this question. And this is also a repeated question. So grab your calculator. All right, so we're gonna work out this one. Clearly, repeated question, and they use the same name as well, is paid a basic wage of $8 per hour for a 40-hour week, and $9.60 per hour for overtime work. Overtime work, right? Last week, Claire worked 48 hours. What was her total wage for the week? I just changed my... All right, so let's use this one. All right, Claire Lee is paid a basic wage of $8 per week for a 40-hour week. So let's work on that first. So it's a 40-hour week, right? She's being paid $8 an hour. So 40 multiplied by 8 is 320. So this is the flat salary, right? $320. $9.60 per hour for overtime work. Last week, Claire worked 48 hours, right? So the normal week, she would normally work 40 hours, but this particular week, she worked 48. So what does that say? She worked 8 hours extra, right? So the 8 hours extra she worked is considered overtime. So if it's overtime, we have to pay her $9.60 for every hour she worked extra. So $9.60 multiplied by 8 is $76.80. All we have to do is add 320 plus $76.80. So grab the calculator, 320 plus $76.80. You will get $396.80. So the answer is C. Let me just change it back. Right, so the answer is C. Let's go to question number 20. At a meeting on the 25th of November 2024, discussions were held concerning the appointment of a secretary. What documents should be consulted to obtain the information that was discussed at the meeting so that follow-up action can be taken? That will be the minutes of a meeting. Now, the minutes of a meeting is a summary of what took place during a meeting. So the answer is D. The agenda is a list of topics to be discussed at a meeting. The notice of a meeting is just a document identifying who must attend the meeting, the venue, time, and date for the meeting. Yeah, the chairman's agenda, that is totally different, right? So the minutes of the meeting is a summary of what took place at a meeting. So if we have anything to follow up, all we have to do is check out the minutes. 21, repeated question. Which of the following should not be used as a reminder system in an organization? Diaries, yes. Tickler files, yes. Appointment. So the answer is sticky notes. Sticky notes. 22. In a meeting, the role of a proxy is to, now if I have a meeting to attend and I cannot attend because I'm sick, I could ask a friend to fill in and attend that meeting for me. That friend will become a proxy. So who is a proxy? A proxy is someone who can act on behalf of an absent member. So what is the answer here? C. Right? The answer is C. And a proxy can vote at a meeting as well. 23. Which of the following services can usually be obtained through a travel agency? This is a new question. Hotel reservations, yes. Purchase of airline tickets, yes. Foreign exchange. So the answer is 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 24. Which of the following functions is not performed by the Human Resource Department? Arranging training, yes. Preparing job cards, no. Providing welfare, yes. Shortlisting, yes. So the answer is B. Preparing job cards. HR don't do preparing job cards. That section is operations department. 25 refers to the following office register. Use the 24-hour clock to answer the question. At what time did L. Mills depart the office? So we're looking for L. Mills. What time did he depart? Right, so he left the office at time of arrival is 2:10. Time of arrival is 2:10, and he left the office at 2:30. Right, so remember the question says use the 24-hour clock. All right, so what is in using the 24-hour clock, 2:30 will be converted into what time? 2:30. That will be 1430 hours. All right? 1430 hours. So the answer is C. Question number 26. We're seeing, all right. The document above is best described as a, that is, minimum qualifications 5 CXC, application for a receptionist, work includes, is giving you the work duties, the qualification, knowledge. So this looks like a job advertisement. Bingo. Job advertisement. Yeah? 27. Which of the following items of business is not discussed at an annual general meeting? At an annual general meeting, that's a meeting held yearly. We will discuss declaration of dividends. Yes. Election of directors and auditors, definitely. Making arrangements for a very important person. Presentation and adoption of company. Right. So the answer is C. We don't discuss this at an annual general meeting. Yeah. 28. Mega Industries experienced a 45% labor turnover during the last 3 years. Right? Now, labor turnover is when people leave their job for whatever reason. When they leave their job, we consider that as labor turnover. Which of the following actions can be taken to reduce this turnover rate? Improve conditions at work. Some people leave their jobs because of poor working conditions. Review and revise salaries offered, yes. Some people actually leave their job because of the poor salaries. So if we review and revise it, people might want to stay. Provide opportunities for development. Yes. So all of them is feasible. So the answer is 1, 2, and 3. Yeah? We need to improve this because if we don't improve this, it will contribute to labor turnover. What is labor turnover? When people leave their place of employment. 29. An audit is a system used in computerized accounting to record accounting procedures, used in the daily checking of accounting records, for the periodic checking of accounting. So the answer is D. That's the best answer. 30. The term used for the business meeting phrase arranged for this purpose is, this is a new question. The term used for the business meeting phrase arranged for this purpose is ad hoc. Ad hoc. Now, a motion is like a proposal. If we have a meeting and I say I want to provide, I think all employees should be provided with an extra 10 minutes during lunchtime, that's a motion. It's something I propose. It's something I want to throw to the team to consider. That's a motion. Quorum is the minimum number of persons that must be present when you're having a meeting, which is 10. Yeah? If you don't have enough persons, then you're going to have to postpone the meeting. Ex officio is someone who has been invited. They are not a member of the committee or company, but they were invited to make some sort of contribution at a meeting. So if your supervisor wants to have a meeting on financial literacy, they could invite someone from the banking sector to do a little presentation on financial literacy. Whoever they invite, that person becomes the ex officio. An ad hoc meeting is a sudden meeting. Call, we don't have time to create any agenda or anything formal. We don't have time for it. It's an emergency meeting, an ad hoc, sudden meeting designed only for this purpose. We only come in for this meeting to discuss flooding arrangements for a particular country or district. We only call this meeting to discuss this particular purpose. Yeah? So the best answer will be B. 31. What is the name given to a check dated ahead of time? Ahead of time is where I write us a check and I date it June the 30th. Yeah? It's ahead of time. We are now in May, right? Because it's ahead of time, that is considered a post-dated check. So you have to wait until June the 30th in order to cash that check. So the answer is B. 32. Which of the following deductions can be made from wages without obtaining permission from the employee? Now we have two types of deductions. We have compulsory deductions, which is like taxes, NIS, PAYE, pay as you earn, all those taxes, those are compulsory. And then we have voluntary deductions, is where the employee have control in terms of telling their employer what to deduct, like a loan, yeah? So which of the following deductions can be made from wages without obtaining permission? Which of these your employer can deduct without obtaining your permission? That will be considered as compulsory deduction. They don't need your permission. Whoever is employed, the government of your country will be making these deductions. And the answer is income tax, yes. National insurance, yes. Company health scheme, no. That will be voluntary. So the answer is A, 1 and 2. A, 1 and 2. 33. The maximum level recorded on a stock card helps the accounting clerk to maximum level. This is a stock card. Allow sufficient funds for an item, no. Control the amounts used on an item. Maintain good communication with stores. So it's between B. Ensure that the amount to be ordered is not right. So the answer is D. Ensure that the amount to be ordered is not exceeded. So that's why we have the maximum level to avoid overstocking. 34. In a cash book, all monies received are indicated as a debit entry. 35. What is the first step that a businessman should take if his cash book and bank statement show a difference of $20? Reconcile his bank statement with his cash book. 34 and 35 are repeated questions. 32 repeated question as well. 36. The use of a perpetual inventory system in a large department store enables goods that were purchased first to be sold, no. Goods that were purchased last to be sold. The sale of goods on a person-to-person. Calculation of stock levels and value. The answer is D. The calculation of stock levels and values in real time. D. $37. This is a petty cash here. The float is $650. Total payment is $560. Good. Which means we spent $560. At the end of the month, the petty cashier requested an increase of $150 to the float. If the request is approved, how much will the petty cash be reimbursed? Right? So the answer is D, $710. Okay, let's move on to 38. Which of the following is not a duty of a clerk in the accounts office? Operating the internal intercom is not a duty. Preparing the payroll of workers that is a duty of accounts. Keeping records of the firm's debtors, that is a duty. Completing and dispatching bills to customers, that is a duty. So which of the following is not a duty? That will be A. All right, A. Let's go to 39. This is a repeated question. The Joy High School wants to build a new canteen and has received promotional material from several firms. In order to select the most suitable firm for the job, the school should invite firms to send, not quotations, no. The best answer here is tenders, right? A tender is like a bid. If you have a company and you have material in the company to build a canteen, what you have to do is bid for the job. You're going to bid for the job. You have to send in a document stating why I should be selected, right? In that document, you can actually put in, well, you know, if you choose me as the supplier to build the canteen, I could probably give you a 10% discount, right? I have all the materials to build the canteen for the school. Because it's a school, my firm will give you a 10% discount. And we have several businesses who have building materials to build a canteen, all bidding for that particular job. When they bid, that is called a tender, right? That is called the tender, right? Okay. 40. A printed pamphlet which describes goods for sale is called leaflets, priceless. Catalog is called a catalog. Which of the following computer software applications is best suited for an accounts department? Accounts department. Which of the following computer software applications is best suited for an accounts department? Definitely a spreadsheet. And you can get a spreadsheet from Excel. Definitely. Right? The keyword here is accounts. Right? 42. Garden supplies and plant services. This is an invoice. All right. Units, $556 total. Sales tax 10%, E and OE. This means error and omissions accepted. Let's see what the question is. The term E and OE on the invoice indicates that E and OE means errors and omissions accepted. It means if I give you an invoice, and let's just say I made an error, instead of this 5, the error was I put 5, but I really meant to put 9. So because I made an error, once it have E and OE, I'm allowed to change it. I am allowed to change it. All right, so let's see the answers. Mr. Lee should not regard this document as a request, no. Garden supplies and plant service can later correct any error, see, made when preparing the bill. I don't even have to read out the other answers. B is the answer. B, yeah? What is the total amount that Mr. Lee should pay to settle his bill? What is the total amount? All right. To settle his bill. Okay, let's see. Just change this back here. So we see here he's supposed to get 10% off. No, this is sales tax. Sales tax. So let's say that's VAT. 10% of $556. That's what we have to find, right? So that will be 10 divided by 100 multiplied by 556, right? Remember, you will not be allowed to use your calculator in the room. So 10% of 556 is, use your calculator in your head. So that is $55.60. So what you have to do, remember, this is not a discount, yeah? This is sales tax. So we have to add this onto that. So 556, right? 556 plus $55.60, right? We would get $611.60. So let's see if that is an answer. All right, look at right here. All right. So the answer is D. D. Let's go to 44. Which of the following agencies should a businessman consult in order to obtain $15,000 in cash? $15,000 in cash. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs? No. A commercial bank? Yeah. Central bank? Yeah. So the answer is 2 and 3. That is D. Yeah? D. That's a new question. 45. A poster about a performing arts show was placed on a billboard. Which function of the marketing office is being utilized? Poster on a billboard, to me, that is advertising. Yeah. 46. Which of the following is not a method used to gather feedback from customers? Like if you're doing a customer service, this is customer service department. This is all about customer service. Which of these here is not a method to gather feedback from customers? Question is newsletters. Question is comment cards. Question is, yes, we use that to get feedback. Comment cards, yes. Suggestion box, yes. Not a method to gather information is a newsletter. 47. One of the duties of a marketing clerk is to prepare office supplies, distribute goods and services, purchase goods for the department, no, that's procurement. Assist with promotional activities. The answer is D. Assist with promotional activities. 48. For a pencil case, reorder level is 25, meaning when you only have 25, then you have to go and order more pencil cases, right? Maximum is 100, you're not allowed to cross 100, minimum is 15, right? How many pencil cases were issued on the 5th of September? You go to the 5th of September, how much was issued? I'm seeing 40 here. So the answer is B, 40. The total number of pencil cases received was, this is a repeated question, 75 came in, and on the 8th of September, 20 came in. 75 plus 20, that's 95. So the answer is E, 95. Yeah? Repeated questions, both of them. And we are on to number 50. A document made out by the HR department, that's Human Resource Department, for office supplies and sent to the purchasing department is called a beautiful question, a new question that is called a purchase requisition. If you are working in a department and let's say you need pens, rulers, you need an office chair, you bring it to the attention of your supervisor, right? They will fill out a requisition form indicating the items that you need. Supervisor must sign for it, and then it will be passed directly to the purchasing department. And they will be responsible for purchasing the items that you need. Yeah, beautiful question. 51. The duties of a clerk in the dispatch office includes preparing credit notes. The duties of a clerk in the dispatch office. This came from that topic, factory, also known as operations, dispatch, and transport department. So the duties of a clerk: preparing credit notes, maintaining a database for couriers, liaising with the relevant departments. Credit notes is not prepared in the dispatch office, that's accounts. Maintaining a database for the couriers, definitely. Liaising with other, yes, so the answer is 2 and 3. Which one has 2 and 3? C. The answer is C. 52. All right. Number, no calculation, no calculators allowed, okay? An employee's gross earnings was $182.80. His statutory deductions total $22 and voluntary deductions is $980. Net pay. So the rule is net salary is gross, yeah, minus deductions. You will get here net salary. NS is net salary. So what is the gross? $182.80 minus, what is the deductions? I'm seeing here $22. So deductions is $22 plus $980, which is $31.80 minus the $31.80. How did I get $31.80? $22 plus the $980, right? So you have $182.80 minus $31.80, you will get $151. So the answer will be A. All right, the answer is A. 52A. Let's go to 53. The operations office is responsible for planning and organizing cost of production, no. Marketing of goods, employees contracts, the production processes, that is it. D, 53D. Operations office is also known as the factory office, that deals with factory and what goes on in a factory, right? The planning and organizing is part of the production process. 54, this is a movement of stock here. 54, what is the cost of the closing stock at the end of May using the FIFO method? This is such a repeated question. You don't even have to work out this question, you already know the answer is A. The answer is A. All right. 54A. And that's the thing with doing multiple choice questions, right? Sometimes you don't even have to read out the question because you know it's a repeated question. Make sure it is a repeated question because sometimes they can change some figures. Yeah? You know the answer is already poking out at you. It's already saying peekaboo. All right? All right, so let's move on. Which of the following cars is least likely to be used in a factory office? Another question, repeated question for a couple of years. The answer is just jumping out at you, right? Which of the following cars is least likely to be used in a factory office? Another word for factory is the operations. You see how they're using that word interchangeably? Remember, factory and operations office, it means the same, it falls in alignment in the same topic. Which one of these we don't use in a factory office? Do we use the job cost card? We use the job card, the job cost card. We use the time slots. What we don't use is a bin. We don't use bin. Not in a factory. Let's go to 56. This is what we actually use in a factory. Right? This is 56 and 57. What is the cost of the labor? Cost of the labor. Right. Cost of the labor. Let me just change. Right. Cost of the labor. So the fabric is $600. We're gonna make cushions, right? The fabric is $600. The sponge is $250. The thread is $60. Right? I'm gonna add up all of this. I'm gonna add it up. So 600 plus 250 plus $60 is $910. $910, right? The total cost of the job to make 20 cushions is $1,200. So they want to know the cost of labor. All we have to do, $1,200, right? Minus $910, you will get $290. Let's see if $290 is an option. Yes, it is. Look at it right here. Right? So the answer is A. All right, the answer is A. Okay, the unit cost of one cushion. What is the unit cost of one cushion? Now, you can see we need 20 cushions. And to produce 20 cushions is $1,200, right? Remember, the cost of labor is $290. So if we write in it $290 here and add up everything, we'll get it $1,200. So to produce 20 cushions, all we have to do, 1,200 divided by 20 and you will get 60. Let's see if $60 is an option. Yes, it is. So the answer is 60. Right? Let's go to 58. Which document used in shipping is both a contract for carriage and a document of title? Keyword here is shipping. And once it is shipped, your items is used via a ship, right? We consider that a bill of lading. Document will have the company ordered it from, the name of the ship, the items that you ordered, etc. That's a bill of lading. If we order something and it comes via an airplane, we will consider it an airway bill, right? 59. An order for the supply of 4 new laptops was delivered on the 4th of January 2025. The amount due for payment is $2,680, which is subject to a 5% discount if the bill is paid within 28 days. The amount of the cash discount, right? So what we have to find out is the cash discount. So let me just change this. Right. So the bill is $2,680, subject to a 5% discount. So what we have to find, 5% of 2680, right? So 5 divided by 100 multiplied by 2680 is $134. 5 divided by 100 multiplied by 2680, that is $134. So the amount of the cash discount is $134. That's all they want to find out, the discount. Right? They didn't ask you for the final total or anything. They just want to know, hey, what is the discount? $134. Alright? 60. What is the main difference between order forms and requisition forms? Now, this is a repeated question. Now, the order forms, remember the department who has to order items is from the purchasing department. If the purchasing department receives 2 requisitions, and the 2 requisitions indicate one requisition, somebody ordered a laptop, the other requisition, somebody ordered an office chair. Purchasing department will source their supplier. So once they find their supplier, they will get an order form, fill it out, and send it for the supplier. What will be on the order form? A laptop and an office chair. Right? You're letting the supplier know this is what I want to order from you. That is the order forms. The requisition forms comes from the employees. Right? If you need a laptop to do your job, if you need an office chair, you fill out a requisition form requesting the items. Most importantly, you pass it to your supervisor, and then they will in turn pass it to the purchasing officer. Yeah, so what is the main difference between the order forms and the requisition forms? Last question. Order forms are usually not signed while requisition forms are signed. That is incorrect. Requisition forms are usually not signed while order forms are signed. No, both forms are signed. Requisition forms are used externally while order forms are, that is incorrect. Requisition forms are used internally because remember it's coming from employees. Last one, order forms are used externally, correct, while requisition forms are used internally. That is the answer. The answer is 60D. That is the answer.